Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. We're here to talk about enhancements to the Arizona's Amber, Silver, and Blue alerts. Here to discuss this with us is Captain Thomas Neve and Sergeant Jimmy Chavez with the Emergency Management Unit at AZDPS. And we're in partnership, and our participants are Chris Klein, President of the and Chief Executive Officer of the Arizona Broadcasters Association, Doug Pacey, Communications Project Manager at the Arizona Department of Transportation, Martha Maurer, News Director at KTAR News, and Larry Pulowski, the Vice Chairman for the Arizona State Emergency Communications Committee. And we want to discuss a few questions with you. Why, how, and when are we going to receive these alerts? When will the alerts be sent statewide? And when will the alerts be geo-targeted? And what is geo-targeting? So to begin, let's have Captain Thomas Neve from DPS.
Good morning. Here to talk to you about the three types of alerts that the Arizona Department of Public Safety is responsible for putting out. Those three types of alerts include Amber Alert, Blue Alert, and Silver Alert. The Amber Alert, as you know, is the alert that we put out when a child's been abducted. The Blue Alert is an alert that we put out when a law enforcement officer has been seriously injured or killed. And then the Silver Alert is what we put out when a person over 65 goes missing, or anybody with a cognitive or developmental disability as defined by statute goes missing, is when the Silver Alert goes out. So the first question is, why are you going to start receiving these alerts? And first thing I want to say is you're already receiving those alerts in various different ways. Amber Alert is going to have no changes in how we send those alerts out. Blue Alert, with the new capability, we are now able to send those out to the emergency alert system programs to our broadcast partners. And we're also able to activate wireless emergency alerts on your phone with the advent of a new code that allows us to do that. And then finally, the Silver Alert process, also, which begins tomorrow, we'll be able to, September 17, 2019, we will be able to activate wireless emergency alerts when certain criteria is met, as well as send request activations to our broadcast partners with the emergency alert system request. So the second question is, how are you going to receive these alerts? Before I talk about that, I'm going to talk about the why again, and that is that we as law enforcement know that these alerts have a very time-sensitive attachment to them, meaning we are already committing a lot of resources and a lot of different officers, personnel, and ways to try to find these people, but we know with that time sensitivity that we have a much bigger resource available, and that's the people of Arizona. You have the ability to help us locate these people and have done so with Amber Alerts as well as Silver Alerts over the last several years. And we know that that's another resource that we want to be able to utilize. So having these capabilities and asking your help in locating these people will help us to ensure that that time-sensitive portion of this leads to a safe recovery of an abducted child or a missing loved one. So the second part, how you're going to receive the alerts, I talked about a little bit in the first question. The first way is through broadcast programming by way of a EAS or an emergency alert system request. The emergency alert system request is a request that's sent directly to broadcasters, letting them know that one of those three alerts has been activated. The broadcasters will then decide if that's something that will interrupt your broadcast programming. We know that will occur for sure with Amber and Blue, and then there's a possibility that it could come on the next break or during a newscast for the Silver Alert itself. The second part is the wireless emergency alert. The wireless emergency alerts, you're already getting those with Amber Alert. You will get those with Blue Alerts when one is activated. And then with Silver Alert, if the criteria is met for a Silver Alert, there's some more strict criteria because of a federal guideline that requires that that person's life be in peril. So if the circumstances support that, then you may get a wireless emergency alert on your phone if that alert actually occurs within the community that you're in. And then the final way that you're going to get notified of these alerts is through the variable messaging signboards that ADOT puts up. Again, this is something that's been ongoing. You've seen this for all 3 alerts. That's no change, but you're going to continue to see those as well with vehicle information related to those alerts. So the next question is, when are you going to receive these alerts? We talked about the EAS going out by way of interrupted programming. You will see that for amber and blue. And then beginning tomorrow, the capability for that to occur with silver is also coming on board. If a silver alert is activated tomorrow or after tomorrow, September 17, 2019, you may see an interrupt in programming based on the circumstances of that particular silver alert. That doesn't mean you'll see it for all of them, but there are cases where you may actually start seeing that for a silver alert. So the next question is, when are you going to receive these alerts? And again, the amber alerts is just like you've always been getting them. Blue alert is something we were able to get that capability earlier this year, so that's been ongoing. We just are fortunate not to have had an activation yet. But as soon as we have one, the next one, you will see an EAS alert go out, which is Emergency Alert System Program broadcast and or a wireless emergency alert on your phone. And then the final one, silver alert, we have the ability to activate or request those for silver alert, but again, if it's not a life danger, perilous situation for that person, you're not going to see that. But if it happens to be a person that meets silver alert criteria and maybe they were kidnapped, or it's a child under 18, the DPS duty office will be activating a silver alert for those. So the next question is, when are you going to be receiving these alerts on the ADOT VMS boards? And I answered that a little bit in one of the prior questions, but you will receive those the same as you always have. There's been no change to the signboard activations. Silver alert has only one exception. If there's not a vehicle involved, then they do not activate the signboards, but anytime a vehicle is involved, you will see that for silver, and as always, you'll see it for blue and amber. How often am I going to receive these alerts? For amber alerts, you will get those, both WIA and EAS, whenever they occur. We don't have a way to determine when a request is going to come in, but I could tell you on average we get maybe 5 of those a year. For blue alerts, we're fortunate we have less than 1 a year, and so both of those are going to happen fairly infrequently. And then silver alerts, this is a brand new program. Like I said, we're rolling it out tomorrow, September 17th. We will have the capability of sending EAS on every silver alert request to the broadcaster. Whether or not that interrupts programming or not, again, it's going to be dependent on the criteria that's set forth by the broadcaster. I don't expect that there will be a lot of interruptions of programming. Those may go out on the next broadcast or on the next newscast, but they will have the information that's needed. The broadcaster will have that information. It'll be available by way of this new system that we're using. And then if a WIA, again, if that very narrow life-threatening or perilous situation occurs, a wireless emergency alert can be sent out by way of the cell phone, and people within that population or within that area, that community, will get those on their phones as well. So the next question is, when will these alerts be sent statewide? And the answer is the amber alert and the blue alert already go out statewide, so that will affect everybody. The silver alerts, like I just talked about, if it's a WIA, a wireless emergency alert, that will only go to a geo-targeted or a community area in which that person was last known to be or believed to be in. And only people within that defined geographic area will actually get the alert on a WIA. As far as the EAS, we will send those out statewide initially. We'll work with our broadcasters. If that needs to be adjusted, we can adjust that. But otherwise, the EAS request, the emergency alert system request, will go out to all broadcasters in Arizona. And then geo-targeting, just to talk about geo-targeting a little bit, I kind of alluded to it. Geo-targeting is the ability for the DPS duty officer to draw a line around that community or that area where that person is known to be in on a silver alert. With that, we don't have to activate the silver alert statewide, so only the people within that immediate vicinity or in the area that person is believed to be in will get a notification on their phone. If you happen to come into that area later and that alert is an active alert for that area, you will get the same type of notification on your phone as you enter that area, as long as that's an active silver alert for that area. So it's the ability for us to just basically inform that community in which that person is last known to be in or believed to be in currently, and asking for the community's help within that area to help us start looking for that vehicle, that suspect, or the victim. And then if you need more information, we do have on our website, we post all the alerts. We have a DPS alerts website, and you can go to azdps.gov/alerts to get more information about each of the 3 alerts I just discussed, the amber, the blue, and the silver. And with that, I can open up for questions.
Before we do, Captain, our participants, our panel, do we have anything that we want to fine-tune and focus on before we move on to questions? Just come back and tell me, great job. Very good.
Anything you want to add, Jimmy?
There was a silver alert that was sent out on April 23rd. Why did that happen? It was sent out to mobile devices.
So I'm not sure if that was April 23rd or 27th. I thought it was maybe the 27th. But the one that went out on that date, that was when we first had the ability to go live with it. We've been kind of beta testing the system and trying to basically refine the process for how those can go out and make sure that those go out both according to the statute as well as the federal guidelines. So that's why that one went out. That's when we were first starting to come online with the capability, but it hadn't been fully launched or officially launched at that point.
So was it sent out in error?
It wasn't sent out in error. It was part of the process. It just, again, we're kind of in the beginning phases of getting the alerts put together and trying to get those activated and put out in a way that is meaningful for the general public as well as law enforcement to ensure a safe recovery of that individual. So again, it's a new system, and we were working through some of the processes and figuring out how it needed to be launched, and having a press conference such as this before the official launch and go live date of launching those alerts.
Did that silver alert that went out to mobile devices, did that violate WIA guidelines?
So when we talk about the federal guidelines, I have to look at the alert itself and see if that person's life was in perilous danger to see if it met those guidelines. So I couldn't answer as to whether that one actually did or not, but that was our first one.
How does this new system that you're launching differ from what we've already been getting?
So the new system is very similar to what you've already seen for amber alerts. The difference is the blue alerts didn't have a specific code before January of this year that allowed us to activate for a blue alert itself. So if we activated for a blue alert or a silver alert, they would look exactly the same. So this has the ability for us to send the message to broadcasters that looks different from a blue alert to a silver alert, so they're able to, it better helps the broadcasters as well as us to differentiate what type of a message that we're trying to send out an alert for, and in that way we can, can I go back to your question again?
Yeah,
So, go ahead and ask your question again so I can make sure I'm answering it.
How does this new system that's being launched differ from what we've already been receiving?
So what it's allowing us to do is have the same capability for blue that we've always had for amber in terms of having a specific code to launch an alert or activate an alert for. For silver, there's some generic coding that's still not specific to silver, but with this new ability or capability that DPS has acquired to be able to send out the messages for blue the same as amber, we now can do it for silver. So we've added that as another part of that activation, bringing them both up at the same time.
How does this system work if you're trying to get information to another state around Arizona?
I'm going to let Jimmy finish answering his question, then we can answer yours.
I just want to add to your point. What this system allows us to do as well is it provides us with the ability to add the wireless emergency alert to a silver alert, which we did not have the capability to do prior. And it puts us in compliance with statute that now requires a silver alert. In addition to anyone over the age of 65, it also includes anyone with a cognitive or a physical disability or that might be in a life-threatening situation. And as Tom alluded to earlier, time is of the essence in those instances, so the sooner we get the information and get that alert out by the various means that we have capable, which is the EAS and the WIA, that gets that information out to the public so we can locate that missing person or that victim as quickly as possible.
And just to be clear, when you talk about somebody with a cognitive disability, and I guess any other disability, of any age, right?
That is correct. The statute defines it as anyone with a cognitive disability, anyone of any age that's being diagnosed with Alzheimer's, dementia, or any other related illness of that diagnosis.
We need to explain to you, this is interesting, what is there this discrepancy between the Amber Alert, the Blue Alert, and the Silver Alert in terms of disseminating that information? Why that discrepancy?
Well, first of all, if you look at the statute on blue and silver, they both require EAS activation, and we didn't have codes before for that. So again, it's going to go back to what the federal coding shows, and we have now a specific coding for blue that we didn't have for blue or silver before January this year. So that's why they were disseminated differently when it came to EAS or WIA messaging that way. And just to add on to what Jimmy just said, that there is very specific definitions as to what a cognitive or developmental disability is in the silver alert, so there's a lot different criteria from one statute to the other as to whether or not it would be activated. And then to answer your question on how this affects other states, right now this type of activation process is not affecting any of the other states. If one state activates an alert, it's the same as an alert for all states in the nation, but we are specific in the sense that if we activate for Arizona, we're activating only for Arizona. If another state wants to activate for that state, they can, but typically an activation one state is the same as an activation in any of the states across the nation.
Will local agencies be able to request a silver alert?
Yeah, in fact, the requests, the alerts that we put out are requests from local agencies. So each of those I just defined, it has to be a request from that agency that has jurisdiction that's actually investigating that particular incident. And they're the ones that make the request to DPS. DPS then reviews the actual criteria as laid out in statute and determines if it meets the statutory requirements, then it will actually activate for that particular agency making the request.
Are there any concerns that because the state has so many silver alerts, that people will be bombarded with alerts to their phones?
You know, I think with all the alerts, even if you go back to Amber Alert when it first came out, that was already an issue or concern, and definitely we understand that, you know, people may not want those types of alerts on their phone, but what we want them to realize too is this is an ask for their help in locating that person or abducted child that's the subject of the alert. And then the other part of it is all these alerts are opt-in, obviously automatic. In most carriers, it's an opt-in process, and we want to encourage people to keep that as an opt-in because, again, there are eyes and ears for us to be able to locate these people in a more timely manner. Again, this is a child or a loved one or somebody who is a threat to the community that we're looking for, depending on which of the alerts we're talking about. And then the other part of it is, again, we get into that specific coding, depending on the carrier, there's only 3 types of alerts that are opt-in in the carrier. One is obviously your weather system. Another one is the child abduction or the Amber Alert. And the third one is the public safety alert. So if you keep that as opt-in, not only are you going to get alerts by way of the blue and the amber, and in the rare cases the silver when they go out, you're also going to get the alerts of other emergencies going on in your area, whether it's flooding, fires, shelter in place types of information that's coming out there as well. So we're encouraging the public to keep that as an opt-in. We know that that might be a concern, that it's inconvenient to get those alerts, but realize they're going out for a good reason, and we need the public's help to locate that person or persons in a timely manner.
The DPS officials have these alerts been, I'm sorry.
I just want to add, the one point that I think that we need to reiterate is that not every silver alert is going to generate a wireless emergency alert on the phone. I think we've worked very well within the agency with our broadcast partners and in consult with statute to make sure that we narrow that criteria so that we don't get into a situation where the public becomes desensitized. We want to make sure that we incorporate the public's help in these situations. So we want to make sure that everybody understands that yes, even though we're instituting a more updated system for these silver alerts, not every silver alert will be issued through the wireless emergency alert system.
Were there any lessons learned from the mobile alert that went out in alerts?
Of course, there were lessons learned. I think one of the most important lessons learned that we worked with in concert with our broadcast partners was to make sure that we fine-tune the process and make sure we have everything organized and ready to go, i.e. this press conference, the release date starting tomorrow. But we worked very well with our broadcast partners, our partners at ADOT, to make sure that we had everything in place so that, number one, the public and everybody understood what the process was going to be from here on out and understand how these alerts were going to be broadcast out.
But it does appear at this time, though, that silver alert that was sent out in April was done so in error.
So you've already asked that question, let's move along. Send that to PIO_unit, and then they've already told us they're gonna look into that so we can give you a full report.
So it was done in error.
That's the third time you've asked that.
I think you had a question for us a minute ago.
How beneficial over the years have these alerts been for you guys in terms of trying to locate people?
Well, I don't have the numbers in front of me at this point in time, but I would say that they have been very successful. We have had an overwhelming success with recovery rates because of the alerts, whether it's an amber alert or whether it's silver alerts. Obviously, and fortunately, the blue alerts have been few and far between. And with the frequency of silver alerts that we have issued over the years, a majority of those, an overwhelmingly majority of those, have been recovered successfully.
And then with this new updated system, is it just making it more efficient? How would you describe it?
This will add to the efficiency, and we also believe that it will add to reaching more public access, more coverage. And again, one of the initial processes, or one of the thoughts behind it, is it'll streamline that process, get that information out there quicker. We now have the ability through the system that we're using to issue those alerts ourselves. And the sooner we get the information from the requesting agency, make sure the criteria are met, we get that information out through either EAS or WIA.
Does DPS have any future alert systems that they're trying to improve in terms of, like, other immediate news that need to be displayed?
These are the only three that we're addressing at this time, and they're the only three that we're mandated or required or authorized to do. As far as the alerts go, usually that's a county or a state DEMA, Division of Emergency Management, Department of Emergency Military Affairs. They're the kind of the two entities that are responsible for the alerts for the general population. It just so happens that DPS, when it comes to amber, blue, and silver, we've been charged with the entity or the agency that's responsible for these types of alerts.
Sure.
So on the question about technology, one of the things that the broadcasters have been working with DPS on over the last 6 months is figuring out faster ways to get the information out to the public. And so, as mentioned, with the new technology DPS is using, not only will that information get to broadcasters more quickly, but it's also going to get them to them digitally. So in the past, when emergency alert messages have gone out, those messages have gone out over the air in the same way people receive their television signals with an antenna. Now, in addition to that being a way that these messages will go out, the messages will also go out instantaneously and digitally, which we hope, as we start to see this come into practice, means that these messages will help save lives in a more efficient manner, will help people to get the information more quickly, and will ensure that members of the public know about an amber alert or a silver alert or a blue alert more quickly, and hopefully that will save more lives.
Your name, please?
I'm Chris Klein. I'm the president of the Arizona Broadcasters Association.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Tom Neve, Captain.
And your last name spelled?
It's like never without the R, Neve.